the DNC announced way back in March that they were hiring an army of lawyers to throw their competitors off the ballot. This is the Democratic Party that claims to be defending democracy. You know, they're destroying democracy supposedly in order to defend it. We haven't seen them defend it yet. They've also advertised for infiltrators and spies to mess up our ballot drives and our organizations. You know, we are specifically in court now in several states fighting them. Their intention is to drain our resources and to stop us from making further progress. We're currently on the ballot for a majority of voters and a majority of the Electoral College. We are truly contesting for power, and they are doing their best to try to disrupt that. And then most recently, they're now tying up the public funding that we qualified for, $270,000, that we very much need to keep going. And you know, so we're encouraging people to own this fight, you know, to crowdfund this fight, because we are the one anti-genocide, anti-war, pro-worker, climate emergency choice that is already on the ballot for a majority of voters.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is a fundraiser, obviously. So all of you guys who are tuning in have donated at least $10 or more, which we are so appreciative of. As you can see, the DNC is at it again, expectedly, unfortunately, but we kind of always know what we're up against, and at least there's no surprises. But of course, Dr. Jill Stein is here to join for the incredible guests we have coming up. Thanks so much for joining us, Jill.
What an honor. Thank you so much, Joy, for bringing us together. Like, we're so reminded now why we fight and why we need a people-powered choice in this election.
We do, absolutely. Of course, I'd be remiss not to talk about Genocide Joe. Big news yesterday, kind of expected, but do you think this changes anything at all with the campaign?
Nothing is different. I think what's different is that there's a huge media circus right now, and the Democratic Party can pretend that it has put its dysfunction behind it. But Kamala Harris has yet to open her mouth. And, you know, while there's a really intensive PR campaign going on right now, basically nothing has changed. And we've seen over $80 million pour in to the campaign for Kamala Harris. This is the biggest take of money in a 24-hour period in the history of presidential elections, which tells you exactly what the drivers here are. Joe Biden's fundraising had nosedived. It was, you know, it had taken a huge crash. It was down like 75%. And it was clear that the donors were making their choice. They no longer wanted Joe Biden. Now they have a pretense of an effective campaign. But this is, you know, a campaign for Wall Street and the war machine. Nothing is different between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, except maybe that she can string a couple sentences together, hopefully, but we have yet to see. You know, she typically does a kind of word salad, but that's better than what Joe Biden could do. This is a crisis of the Democratic Party's own making. They pretended, they circled the wagons around Joe Biden. They prevented an actual primary from taking place. So there was not really an opportunity for the people to be heard. There were 0 debates within the Democratic Party. Several primaries were actually canceled. You know, so this was a dog and pony show from the beginning. It finally couldn't be suppressed anymore, that they basically did not have a candidate who could stand on his own 2 feet. And at the last minute, they had to, you know, regime change him. And he was anointed into the process. He, you know, both in 2020 as well as in the current election, there was not a democratic process. And he was, you know, he effectively had the election made for him when Obama convinced all the other centrist candidates to pull out at once and throw their support to him so that he could win. But, you know, on his own, he was not winning. He, had a miserable campaign, and he required really a concocted promotional campaign to seem like he was winning. And that's how he came to be president. And the process was being railroaded again. And, and it has fallen apart. And lo and behold, the Democratic Party ruling elites have swept in again, along with donors, to anoint Kamala Harris as the stand-in for Joe Biden, who shows no capability whatsoever, really, of being a voice on behalf of the American people. And that's what's really being lost in all of this. This whole dog and pony show, this three-ring circus, this media zoo going on right now. The needs of the American people are being completely suppressed. And the Democrats' strategy is let's avoid the disaster of the Republicans. That's their whole issue. It's fear-mongering against Republicans. And the Republicans' issue, as we just saw at the RNC, that the Republican National Convention, is mainly fear-mongering. It's concocted fear-mongering about migrants. Migrants actually make the country safer. They dilute out the inherent violence of the American population. They do not bring in fentanyl. Fentanyl is brought in by Americans, by red-blooded USA citizens who are bringing it over the border themselves, not through migrants, but through citizens of the U.S. going through actual portals of entry. So all of this is made up. Migrants are actually an economic boon to our economy. They need to be screened upon entry. We need an Ellis Island type system that screens migrants when they come in, that provides them their papers. They go to work, and then basically they are an economic engine for our local communities and for the nation. So the fear-mongering around migrants is completely made up. It's absolutely BS, but that's what this election is made out of the immigrant bashing by Republicans, and then the Democrats in turn fear-mongering about the Republicans. There's nothing real here. There's nothing actually about the American people who are struggling to survive paycheck to paycheck, who cannot afford to keep a roof over their heads. Actually, 50% of Americans are paying at least 30 to 50% of their income to keep a roof over their heads. This is an absolute disaster. Some 8 million people per year go into poverty just because of their medical costs. 100 million people dealing with medical debt. 1 out of every 4 people who develops cancer will lose their house or their savings just trying to deal with the cost of their cancer. And by the way, cancers are going up, especially in young people right now. This is an absolute all-out disaster for the American people, and that is completely lost in the three-ring circus going on right now, in the fear-mongering. They are fear-mongering because they don't want to talk about what the American people actually need and how we can fix this crisis, how we can create Medicare for all and save $500 billion a year at the same time that everybody gets covered comprehensively. We can cut the military budget in half at least and free up at least $500 billion to spend on our true needs. We can create a federal rent control program, build social housing, prohibit the private equity corporations from coming in and gobbling up our housing. We have a fixable crisis here in basically every dimension of our lives. And this is why there is such a frenzy now to distract from the reality of what our lives are like. Because if the American people have a say in this, we're going to dramatically transform our future and this election, which is why it's so critical that we get on the ballot. And I'm so appreciative that you are hosting this event tonight to really crowdfund this fight, because the Democrats are pulling out all the stops their army of lawyers, their job postings for infiltrators and spies, and then basically hijacking our public funds. They're pulling out all the stops to prevent us. We're already on the ballot for a majority of voters, but we want to be on the ballot for all voters. That way they can't silence us. 1 million people are predicted to die, between 500,000 and 1 million have been predicted to die in the coming month alone in Gaza. So every day, you know, just horrific new atrocities are rolling out. So this election right now, this fight to get on the ballot is to show the empire that we're not going to take this sitting down, that we are mobilized, we are organized, and we will be challenging power. So this is a winnable fight in so many different ways. We define the win, but there are many ways that we can win this, which we could talk about later. But
Absolutely.
having your support is the name of the game right now.
Yeah, and for those watching, you may know, since you're supporters, but on Jill's website, Jill Stein 2024, you can print out petition papers in order to get ballot signatures for your areas. I've gotten signatures in Lancaster, Harrisburg, and several different cities around in Pennsylvania where I am. Oh, Matt, thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, it's very simple, you know, and they don't have to be registered green. It's nothing like that. You just print them out, have people sign it. I believe in Pennsylvania, we need 2,500. However, of course, we're trying to get 5,000 because we've been there and this one doesn't match and this one's not a real person and all those things. So, you know, we do double what we need to do just in case. So definitely keep that in mind.
If you go to the ballot access map, and Matt, if you can pull that up, it's like on the homepage, just look at the, yes. So you're basically clicking on the drop-down menu for ballot access from the homepage. And that takes you to this map. If you then click on your state, you can basically, it will tell you who to contact there, where you stand. So this says Ohio. I didn't quite catch that, but yeah, all right. Signatures needed, 5,000. Signatures collected, 11,500. Let's hear it for Ohio. Go
wow,
Ohio.
Nice.
Really
yes, and
awesome.
our first guest is from Ohio. Nice.
Oh, that's really great. So, and it tells you, it should tell you who to contact there as well. Yeah, okay, so it gives you the contact. So you can help do this. It doesn't have to be your states. Almost all states allow anybody to come and help with the signature drive. So basically, if you just check in with the contact person, you'll get all the details on how we can do this as a grassroots movement. And anybody can contribute to the campaign. By contributing to the campaign, you help us make up for this shortfall. There is a shortfall that's been inflicted on us because the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, was supposed to transfer some $270,000 to us to finish up the ballot drives. So surprise, surprise, they're holding on to that money. And, you know, it's not rocket science why they are holding on to this money, because
do you know
they
where
do not.
it's going? Like what it's being put towards? Is it just sitting there?
So there are two things here. One is that there used to be over $400 million in that fund, which is not enough for like a Trump or a Kamala Harris. You know, she raised $85 million here in 24 hours. So it's like 4 or 5 times that, you know, which they would go through really fast. These are $1 billion campaigns and more. But for us, you know, we are a very low budget campaign. We are people powered, so we don't need the same amount of money. Anyhow, they raided that fund. That fund of public money comes from people when they're paying their income tax. There's a little box that you can check off or not that says you're going to donate, if you want, $3 to having a public funding pot so that candidates have another choice besides having to go after deep pockets and, you know, and corporate, you know, warmongers and so on to raise money. Instead, we have public funding. As far as I'm concerned, as far as many of us are concerned, the whole thing should be public funded. There should be no private money in our elections. This should not be about whether you happen to be a billionaire or you happen to have billionaire supporters or you happen to have a big political machine behind you. This should be about what the candidate is running on. So they rated this fund down to, I think it's 17 million, which is still way more than what we need, but there's no way in hell that a Democrat or a Republican are going to accept the public funding there, because the limit is like some 17 million, something like that. And if you accept public funds, then you can't take private money. So it's a complete joke that they're refusing to give us the money that we have qualified for and desperately need, because they say that the priority when the funds get short, when they get tight, they have to wait to see what the general election candidates are going to do. And if any of them want to run on public funding, they would have priority. But there's no way in hell that any of the major party candidates are going to limit themselves to $17 million or whatever it is, some small amount of money. They're not going to do that. So this is being used as an excuse to withhold our funds until the Democrats and Republicans have held their conventions, they have their nominees, and then the FEC asks no longer Biden, Kamala Harris and Trump, whether they are going to run on public money. What a joke. And then it's once they've refused to run on public money, then we can get it. But conveniently, that's after the ballot drives are already done. So maybe we could pay debt with it. But if they decide to otherwise appropriate that money, because they could do that, they could decide to give it away. If they do that, then we're stuck with this huge debt, which is why we're encouraging people, let's crowdfund this. Let's not depend on empire and oligarchy in order to have a democracy. The system is outrageous. If we are in power, that will change and we will have a publicly financed election system. But until we are in power, you can be sure that it will be the predators who are running the show. So the bottom line is our funds might get matched, but they might not. We can't count on it. We can keep our fingers crossed, but it won't come until it's likely too late. And we've tried going to court. You know, we've been there and done that, and it gobbles up your resources. And the courts in general are completely indifferent to public funding and to third parties. They could care less, to tell you the truth.
Right.
So we have a big fight on our hands, but we're reminded of that every day. You know, we have a fight on our hands to, you know, to remain housed, you know, to try to find health care, to try to be able to afford your medications, which, you know, just, what is it? Some huge, I think it's 18 million people per year cannot afford their medicine. Insulin has not quadrupled, it's gone up sixfold in like the last 10 or 20 years. So we have a system that is in a complete meltdown right now, and we have no choice but to stand up and fight back, both to end the genocide in Gaza and to end this crushing inequality and climate collapse and endless war verging on nuclear. There's every reason in the world for us to stand up and fight back. We have to do that together. And if we do it together, we are unstoppable. I think more people are in rebellion now than has ever been the case. So it's very exciting. That's why they are working so hard now to change the subject and to try to make you feel that, oh, you know, Kamala Harris is running so strong. How could we be such fools to think that we could, you know, ever have a fighting chance here in this system? Well, it's up to us. You know, no one is going to do it for us. We need to stand up and demand that we have an America that works for all of us, because if left to their own devices, it will continue working for the one